Hey friends. So earlier this week, I had a really odd and poignant experience that I've never had before. And I'm really curious if this is something that other people have experienced. So, has there ever been a time in your life, sometime in the past, when you encountered something, perhaps a piece of art or writing or a conversation with someone, a chance encounter, that had real meaning for you at the time, that really struck you as important, meaningful, inspirational in some way? And then time passed, and that experience kind of receded to the back of your mind, and you forget about it. And at some point, something happens that reminds you of this experience. It comes back to your memory, and you realize that ever since that first encounter, even though you forgot about the experience, in some way that experience has been inspiring, guiding, prompting you, shaping some aspect of your life this whole time without you being consciously aware of it. That's what happened to me this week. I realized that such a thing has been occurring, and I thought that I would share that experience with you in today's offering of Reiki Story Time. So, friends, welcome back to Heartscapes, where we're learning the system of Reiki to be rooted, to be spacious, connected, and to remember ourselves. My name is Michaela. Welcome back to the studio. So, this chance encounter years ago was with a piece of writing. It was at a time when I was working for university and I had been directing a social justice leadership program for some time and was beginning to develop this sense of angst, this desire to be making an impact in people's lives around the social justice issues they're passionate about, but from more of an inside out perspective, one that really encouraged and was built on a foundation of art, creativity, and spirituality. And that this was just not available to me in the work I was doing in university. And there was this tension that was developing. I've talked about that in other videos. And I was, I think, at least subconsciously, really looking for examples of people in the world who were bringing those different aspects of myself, of themselves together in seamless, powerful ways that I was just at the time not able to achieve. And I, at that time, happened upon the writings of Clarissa Pinkola Estes, firstly in her classic work, Women Who Run with Wolves, and then later in other essays and writings. And one essay in particular came to me in a particular moment of inspiration and just absolutely it was the yellow brick road that I had been looking for. It was a beautiful example of the coming together of art, spirituality, social justice, and academic writing. And it was like this diamond that I had found, and I was very inspired by it, and I wanted to create some sort of response, some sort of offering in response to this essay. And I tried my best, but at the time I just wasn't prepared to create that sort of offering, to develop um, a workshop, a class, an experience that really um, skillfully did what Estes was doing in her writing and offering that to a group of people. And so it didn't happen. And that writing receded to the back of my mind, and I went on with my life. Well, eventually, that angst, that disconnection I was experiencing between my work in social justice leadership development, which was so important to me, but nevertheless really was not activating the part of me that really longed to be contributing to the world. That tension got to be too much, and I did leave that job, and I started Heartscapes and started on this journey of, first of all, figuring out how in the world to share Reiki with people in a way that was meaningful, and then how to marry that work with my previous work in social justice leadership. And that is an effort that is ongoing. I have not yet, um, let me not say it that way. I have learned so much about the nexus of those things and brought it to life in this space in many, many ways. And there's this deeper pool of connection, of vibrancy that I feel down below the surface and am still reaching towards. And so it was in reflecting on that desire to reach that deeper pool that I kind of took the emotional risk to reach back to an idea, a desire that I've had for some time, which is to create an in-person retreat for people to come together in person for 3 or 4 days and to really dive deeply into this point of nexus between the contribution that they know that they must make in the world, that they're drawn to make in the world at any scale, in their own lives, in their family, their community, in the world at large, their spirituality, their creativity, and then the places within them that are longing to be strengthened, to be cultivated in order to do this well, and in order to do this in a way that is healthy and life-giving for them instead of draining and discouraging and depressing, which sometimes change work can be. This desire has been in my heart for a long time to create this space. And, sometimes when you really desire something and you want it to be, you have this ideal in your mind of what it could be, and you just want it so bad, there's almost this sense of perfectionism that can get in the way of actually doing the thing. Like, I could never make it the way that it is in my mind. And so I'm scared to begin. And that's where I had been on this particular idea for quite some time. And for a variety of reasons, it surged back up in me last week. It's like, I really, really want to do this, and I see that it's needed. I see that it's being asked for in my community. And so I really need to find a way around whatever this roadblock is. And I had the opportunity to be in just a very restful, creative space while visiting my dad in Pennsylvania for a couple of weeks. And it was in that space that I felt relaxed and creative and tender enough to really let this desire come forward and to really play with it in my imagination in a way that maybe you could call planning. And it was in that space that 2 lines from that essay written by Clarissa Pinkola Estes so many years ago, somewhere around 2001, when 9/11 had happened and the Iraq War was kicking up, she wrote this essay. And 2 things came to my mind that I remembered from way back then. One was the title of the essay, "We Were Made for These Times." And second was a particularly powerful, metaphoric, poetic line from the essay. "When a great ship is at harbor and it is moored, it is safe, there can be no doubt. But that is not what great ships are built for." These 2 lines came forward for me, and I grabbed onto them, and I thought, that feels like something I could build a powerful experience around, given now my many, many years of facilitating, of building curriculum, and of delivering really powerful experiences to groups. And so I went looking for that essay. And as I read through it, I became aware, really, in that moment, when you have that like tingling in the back of your neck and you become aware that something meaningful is happening or something important is coming through, you haven't quite touched it yet. As I'm reading through this essay, what I realized is that the specific perspective, some of the specific language that Estes uses in this essay has been driving my development of Heartscapes for all these years. It's been working in the back of my imagination and my subconscious since I read it, 15 years ago, quite some time. And it has been part of the architecture of what I've been up to in the world here at Heartscapes. And it's like that just hit my heart so strongly. First of all, just the amazement of that process of something working in the subconscious, which honestly shouldn't surprise me because, my work with soul collage in particular is so focused on that realm of the subconscious and how so much of what happens in our mind happens outside of our consciousness. But it did strike me as amazing and surprising. And then also how incredibly direct and directive this essay is as far as what it is inviting us into. And so part of why I'm making this video is that I want to share this essay with you. I want to read it to you. Sometimes I do a video like this where I'm just reading a piece of writing from someone else that touches something in me that feels connected to my journey with Reiki, to the perspectives that I'm teaching and wanting to share with all of you. And so I want to share this essay with you in that context. Secondly, I want to share it with you almost as a form of accountability, because I'm really in this moment feeling very strongly that I want to make this retreat based on this essay happen. And sometimes I can lose track of those points of inspiration, and I don't want to lose it this time. So I'm sharing it with you as a point of accountability. Feel free to circle back on a comment, if you see this video in a few months, and just check on my progress. But thirdly, because this essay is deeply inspirational, it touches my heart, and I hope that it touches yours as well. So this is for people who are striving to make change around the things that are breaking your heart. People who are wanting to bring into being that which brings you the most joy, wanting to see that spread across the world. And in order to do so, you know that there are injustices and systems of oppression and structures of violence that must be taken down. And that work is hard, and it can wreck us, and it can break our hearts and our minds. It can break our spirits. But there's another way to do it. There's a way to approach this kind of work from a place of joy and connection and love. And that is what I'm here to do, is to support all of us in finding a path to making the world a better place that does not break us, but instead fortifies us, enlivens us, brings us more joy rather than less. And I see all of that potential here in this piece of writing. And so I'm going to share it with you. So this letter was originally published in 2001 in an online magazine. It is titled Letter to a Young Activist During Troubled Times. Do not lose heart. We were made for these times, by Dr. Clarissa Pincola Estes. So have a seat, grab a nice beverage. Let me tell you a story. I have heard from so many recently who are deeply and properly bewildered. They are concerned about the state of affairs in our world right now. It is true, one has to have strong cojones and ovarios to withstand much of what passes for good in our culture today. Abject disregard for what the soul finds most precious and irreplaceable, and the corruption of principled ideas have become, in some large societal arenas, the new normal, the grotesquerie of the weak. It is hard to say which one of the current egregious matters has rocked people's worlds and beliefs more. Ours is a time of almost daily jaw-dropping astonishment and often righteous rage over the latest degradations of what matters most to civilized, visionary people. You are right in your assessments. The luster and hubris some have aspired to while endorsing acts so heinous against children, elders, everyday people, the poor, the unguarded, the helpless, is breathtaking. Yet, I urge you, I ask you, I gentle you, to please do not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times, and especially do not lose hope. Most particularly because the fact is, we were made for these times. Yes, for years we have been learning, practicing, been in training for, and just waiting to meet on this exact plane of engagement. I cannot tell you often enough that we are definitely the leaders we have been waiting for, and that we have been raised since childhood for this time precisely. I grew up on the Great Lakes, and I recognize a seaworthy vessel when I see one. Regarding awakened souls, there have never been more able crafts in the water than there are right now across the world, and they are fully provisioned and able to signal one another as never before in the history of humankind. I would like to take your hand for a moment and assure you that you are built well for these times. despite your stints of doubt, your frustrations in a writing all that needs change right now, or even feeling you have lost the map entirely, you are not without resource, and you are not alone. Look, out there over the prow, there are millions of boats of righteous souls on the water with you. In your deepest bones, you have always known this is so. Even though your veneers may shiver from every wave in this stormy royal, I assure you that the long timbers composing your prow and rudder come from a forest greater. That long-grained lumber is known to withstand storms, to hold together, to hold its own, and to advance regardless. We have been in training for a dark time such as this since the day we ascended to come to Earth. For many decades worldwide, souls just like us have been felled and left for dead in so many ways over and over. Brought down by naivete, by lack of love, by suddenly realizing one deadly thing or another, by not realizing something else soon enough, by being ambushed and assaulted by various cultural and personal shocks in the extreme. We all have a heritage and history of being gutted, and yet remember this especially. We have also, of necessity, perfected the knack for resurrection. Over and over again, we have been living proof that that which has been exiled, lost, or foundered can be restored to life again. This is as true and sturdy a prognosis for the destroyed worlds around us as it was for our own once mortally wounded selves. Though we are not invulnerable, our rise-ability supports us to laugh in the face of cynics who say, fat chance and management before mercy, and other evidence of complete absence of soul sense. This, and our having been to hell and back on at least one momentous occasion, makes us seasoned vessels for certain. Even if you do not feel that you are, you are. Even if your puny little ego wants to contest the enormity of your soul, the smaller self can never for long subordinate the larger self. In matters of death and rebirth, you have surpassed the benchmarks many times. Believe the evidence of any one of your past testings and trials. Here it is. Are you still standing? The answer is yes. And no adverbs like barely are allowed here. If you are still standing, ragged flags or no, you are able. Thus, you have passed the bar and even raised it. You are seaworthy. In any dark time, there is a tendency to veer towards fainting over how much is wrong or unmended in the world. Do not focus on that. Do not make yourself ill with overwhelm. There is a tendency, too, to fall into being weakened by perseverating on what is outside of your reach, by what cannot yet be. Don't focus there. That is spending the wind without raising the sails. We are needed. That is all we can know. And though we meet resistance, we more so will meet great souls who will hail us, love us, and guide us, and we will know them when they appear. Didn't you say you were a believer? Didn't you say you pledged to listen to a voice greater? Didn't you ask for grace? Don't you remember that to be given grace means to submit to a voice greater? You have all the resource you need to ride any wave, to surface from any trough. In the language of aviators and sailors, ours is to sail forward now and balls out. Understand the paradox. If you study the physics of a waterspout, you will see that the outer vortex whirls far more rapidly than the inner one. To calm the storm means to quiet the outer layer, to cause it by whatever countervailing means to swirl much less, to more evenly match the velocity of the inner, far less volatile core. till whatever has been lifted into such a vicious funnel falls back to earth, lays down, is peaceable again. One of the most important steps you can take to help calm the storm is to not allow yourself to be taken in a flurry of overwrought emotions or despair, thereby accidentally contributing to the swale and the swirl. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this suffering world, will help immensely. It is not given us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip towards the endearing good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, the second, or the 100th gale. One of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in a stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. Soul on deck shines like gold in dark times. The light of the soul throws sparks and can send up flares, builds signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire, to display the lantern of soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy towards others, both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity. Struggling souls catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it. If you would help to calm the tumult, this is one of the strongest things you can do. There will always be times in the midst of success right around the corner, but as yet still unseen, when you will feel discouraged. I too have felt despair many times in my life, but I do not keep a chair for it. I will not entertain it. It is not allowed to eat from my plate. The reason is this: in my uttermost bones, I know something as you do. It is that there can be no despair when you remember why you came to earth, who you serve, and who sent you here. The good words we say and the good deeds we do are not ours. They are the words and the deeds of the one who brought us here. In that spirit, I hope you will write this on your wall. When a great ship is at harbor and is moored, it is safe to be certain. But that is not what great ships were built for. This comes with much love and prayer, that you remember who you came from and why you came to this beautiful, needful earth. In solidarity, Clarissa. So friends, I'll just invite you to take a moment to just breathe in whatever piece of that was for you today. To notice if any metaphors or words or ideas struck a chord within you, reassured something within you, perhaps activated something within you. At the very least, I hope that you enjoyed it. I appreciated getting the chance to share it with you and telling you the story of the way in which this piece of writing is really folded into the fabric of what we're doing here at Heartscapes. And I, again, welcome you to hold me to account, to follow through on my inspiration, to create something tangible from these words that we can put into action in our life, to make ourselves feel that sense of provision, that sense of joy, that sense of connection to the many, many, many souls that are at sea with us in all of our most important endeavors. And as I do that, I wish myself to be provisioned. And as you go through your life, your soul on deck, fulfilling your purpose, may you be deeply provisioned for that journey. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Reiki Story Time. Until next time, I love you. Goodbye.